The Geopolitics and Empire podcast is joined by a returning guest, former congressional staff member, geopolitical analyst, and author Brandon Weichert. His latest book is Winning Space, How America Remains a Superpower, which we covered on our previous podcast, and his website is theweichertreport.com. It's been a while, Brandon. You've made the smart decision to flee to the Sunshine State. How are things?
It's wonderful here. Thank you for asking. It's really, you can taste and smell the freedom, unlike up in DC or Chicago.
I thought you were going to say taste the orange juice. I have that image.
That too.
Oranges in Florida.
That too. We got a tree out in the back that we're cultivating right now, an orange tree. So
there you go. So I thought we'd start off with the big question. Everything that's on everyone's mind, and you've been making some very interesting predictions, namely that in 2022 we would be seeing some fireworks, which we are. Right. And I wanted to read a few quotes from your book,
sure,
which we discussed on the podcast last time. Quote, Putin must act within the next decade to decisively rejigger the European map to better favor his designs, namely to more easily defend Moscow and the Russian core that sits adjacent to Europe's borders. Either Putin makes a bold play soon to move the strategic ball down the field, or he sees the initiative and therefore the future to his Western rivals. End quote. So it seems, just like you said, he made that bold move. And let me just read one more quote. Russian forces would first need to defeat the U.S. military station in Europe. Short of an all-out nuclear exchange, Russian forces would be unable to accomplish such a feat. Russian forces could, however, potentially beat an American force that was deprived of its technological accoutrements by first debilitating the U.S. military in space, which is something the Russians have been strategizing about for years, end quote. So you go on to discuss in your book a Russian space attack in 2022. We haven't seen that yet. And also, myself having spoken to Andrei Martyanov, I'm not quite sure I would agree with you that Russia cannot defeat U.S. or NATO conventionally in Europe. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. I'm not sure. But nevertheless, you do some absolutely astounding analysis and forecasting. You go on to say that such a cyber attack, or dare I say cyber pandemic, could force Washington to negotiate with the Kremlin and once and for all disabuse the West of its hegemonic inclinations. So what on earth is going on with Russia, the U.S. and EU in Ukraine?
Well, that's excellent. Thank you for quoting that. Basically, what's going on is Russia has a lot of natural resources. They have a leadership that is not keen on just being an appendage of the Western order. They want to be their own sort of, Dugin says this all the time, Alexander Dugin, civilization state or civilization empire.
You must be wondering where the rest of this interview is. From here on out, many future Geopolitics and Empire podcast interviews will no longer be posted to the YouTube platform due to censorship. They are simply too hot to handle. However, you can easily find all the full-length podcast interviews on platforms that do not censor. For video, you can go to the Geopolitics and Empire channels over at Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, or Brighteon. For audio, you can go to SoundCloud or wherever podcasts are found, such as Apple, Spotify, Google, or countless other podcast platforms. You can also bookmark geopoliticsandempire.com or subscribe to the newsletter to be reminded of every new podcast interview. I need your help in migrating away from Pentagon Tube, so please find Geopolitics and Empire on other platforms and subscribe there. See you on the other side.